Previously on World Guardians, it all began millennia ago, with the demon overlord who was banished by the elder gods. They had misused their powers. Him and the other gods of the abyss were sealed away within their homeroom. They were no longer allowed near the most precious of the creations of the elder gods. And a power struggle ensued, which the overlord won. Then he began plotting his revenge. He wanted to kill an elder god and take their place. His eyes became set upon the usage, an artifact created by Pan, the main elder god himself. But Narendil, a greater god just like the demon overlord, was its guardian, and they got into a fight. Narendil lost, but he swiftly got out of the snow and teleported the staff away. And it landed somewhere on Earth. Millennia later, it was found by William the Sorcerer, member of an order of spellcasters in the Himalayan mountains. He became its protector, but a few years later, the demon overlord had managed to break the barriers of the gods and began to wreak havoc upon the world. But William banished the overlord using his knowledge as wizard of gateways and portals. The overlord's body was split from his spirit, and his body was teleported somewhere underneath the earth. Anticipating that the demons would someday return, William and the other few surviving spellcasters began to create artifacts and imbued them with magic, hidden in chests that only members of William's lineage could open. He also created magical maps and compasses that led to these artifacts. But unbeknownst to them, the evil already lingered. When William banished the overlord, he absorbed some of the demon essence and began a slow process of corruption. When that corruption reached its peak, it led to William's death at the hands of his former comrade, Haribo I. The demon essence needed a new host, and it found Haribo. He became the first in a long line of Haribos and paved the way for an organization called the Haribo Company. But its true leader was hidden in the shadows. 600 years later, when I was a few weeks old, a demon attacked my parents' house. They were saved by Uncle Matabray, leader of the Flying Scotsman. He asked my mom, Connie, if she was alright. She went off to check up on newborn me. Matabray told my dad, Harold, that this was all looking eerily similar to what happened when they first found him, and they urged my parents to move. My parents gathered me and my brother Brian to get into the car and leave. The Flying Scotsman said they were going to get to the bottom of this and would return to meet me when I'd be old enough to teach me what I must know. Years later, the Flying Scotsman appeared to me in our garden, and they took me on my first quests, often involving fairies, goblins, and baby demons, like the baby Skyfoogle I defeated with a magical water pump. Sometimes my brother Brian joined, like the time we had to escape from vampires in a haunted house with Uncle Pickle and Uncle Cucumber. Like a normal boy, I also went to school, but that too took a strange turn when the school was one day attacked by talking gorillas. That's how I found out the coolest teacher in our school, Mr. Coolio, was also a gorilla hunter, and he put a stop to the attack and gained a new mask for his collection, consisting of gorilla faces. It turned out they weren't ordinary gorillas. It was not the first time they met Mr. Coolio. Years later, in 1972, my mum and dad discovered they had special powers after being possessed by something demonic. They caused a mass shooting in a cafe and were arrested. My mum and dad were confused about what was going on. Unexpectedly, soldiers with purple visors came to collect my parents for interrogation. My mum and dad ended up escaping in a stolen hot rod, but were soon found by police officer Georgibo again. However, apparently someone else who was present at the cafe had taken interest in my parents as well. A brown tank appeared and a fat woman appeared from out of the open hatch and blew up Georgibo with a tank. Her name was Marcia, and she took my parents prisoner. They were taken to a base owned by the Haribo Company. Waiting in a lift, they met a Japanese boy with a golden katana named Tanura, who told my mum and dad about his ninja training for the Haribo Company. While not actual family, he was like a younger brother to Marcia. When they got out of the lift, a man with a hood appeared from out of a purple portal. Michael Plumson. He was meant to take down the Haribo Company agent Marcia at the cafe, but now found my mum and dad a far more interesting case. Suddenly, Haribo the Sonorous appeared in his vampire form. Plumson shot down Marcia, who collapsed and professed to regret her dark deeds. Plumson took her brown ring and teleported her away. Pressing the ring, he made a destruction of the base begin, and he escaped with my parents to watch it blow up on top of a green hill. He explained they had special powers he could teach them how to gain control over to do good. And my mum and dad agreed to join him. It also turned out he was the boss of the soldiers with the purple visor who found my parents before. And he took my parents through a door in the green hill to meet another member of the cause and his very good friend, a worm-like creature called Carcass, the cave wizard. Mum and Dad underwent training for months and were then sent on their first mission to retrieve several Haribo company rings. One they got in London from the World Guardian. He saw my parents as demons, and upon giving them the ring, he was freed from a demonic grasp, and my parents had to escape. The other one was in Scotland, and on their way there, they stopped by the house of the Flying Scotsman. But then they found out that Uncle Pickle and Cucumber had already found this ring some years before, and they gave it to them. The next stop was Jamaica. Some of the Scotsmen joined them. There they ran into Mr. Coolio and found out the ring may be the one in the hands of the Gorilla King he was hunting down. They sought it and found it. Together with Mr. Coolio, they injured this gorilla, Mr. Ape Shit, and took the ring. But he escaped through a portal. Mr. Cleo said he'd continue his hunt later and help my parents get back to the airport. They summoned Plumson with a gadget he gave them, and the rings blew up 3 important Haribo company bases. Plumson explained he was a time traveler from a dystopian future, here to stop that dark future from taking place. He told them they would be needed again in the future and would be contacted by them, and to keep a low profile for now. Almost 4 decades went by, and me and my brother, along with my best friend Trevor, were checking out Trevor's new inventions and celebrating Halloween on the 31st of October. But then, we were ambushed by demons. Dravsa and Rotchapsney, 2 demon commanders, captured us and took us away to a strange place. Me and my brother were held captive, and Trevor was tortured by Dravsa. However, the Flying Scotsman rescued us. Unfortunately, we lost Uncle Chutney when he sacrificed himself to help us escape. Later that same year, me and my brother found a strange fridge that teleported us to an icy place where we met a group of talking penguins. They took us to their commander, White Locks, who was a polar bear. They were part of an organization called the Arctic Spice, and they had a submarine. And they told us about another demon leader, an ice demon called Nezor. They took us on a mission to find where he was pursued to soon appear. A base owned by a person called Director Cole. We wore special exosuits, and we ended up killing Director Cole, but the ice demon got away. Not long after that, we were taken out of our house by Uncle Monterey, who said the youngest Haribo was announcing his reign. We went to see the crown. Soon, he summoned creatures of fecal matter, and the Battle of London began. Many Flying Scotsmen took part, with casualties on both sides. My brother Brian died protecting me and Trevor from an attack by the diarrhea Fugel, and his body was teleported away by Haribo. Suddenly, my parents showed up in their car, and my dad shot Haribo to death. His body disappeared as well, and they also destroyed the diarrhea Fugel. My parents learned what happened to Brian. We were struck by grief, but Uncle Monterey explained that they would likely try to resurrect Brian for their own usage, and that we had to try to get him back first. He told me about special artifacts that existed, and I began searching. Months later, I found a magical map. I called it the Michael Rosen map. Through a series of events involving a man with a hood, I managed to take both his map and find a ship, but I needed a crew of 5. I went crew hunting. First, I was to be joined by David Alexander and his group, but I took the wrong ship and I lost them. Then 3 friends, George, Mervyn and Harry, found me and wanted to join. Then a mysterious man in a helmet called Richard jumped and made it fine. We set out to sea, but we soon found out Richard was a spy, and he began to attack us. George ended up shooting him with a cannon, and Richard fell down into the water with the sharks. But then a flying pirate ship appeared. Robot pirates captured us, and there were David Alexander and his group, who turned out to have been hired by Tonel Pizza, an agent of the Haribo company. He spoke about my parents as if they had a specific issue with each other, but I did not understand why. We were taken to Skull Prison Island, where we met a former robot pirate called D4NG3R. He was imprisoned for attempted mutiny against Captain Ironbeard. Suddenly, Uncle Pickle and Cucumber landed in a cell near us, together with Fan and the Fairy. They told us about the Battle of the Green Hill Woods where they got captured. We devised a plan to escape and got out of the cell thanks to D4NG3R. He also managed to obtain a gun. D4 ran into a familiar face, Big Planky, a robot pirate loyal to Captain R&B. They exchanged threats and D4 shot a holding platform above him, and an explosive barrel fell straight down onto Big Planky. We escaped and found a new ship. Fana left to go to her people, but the rest of us went to the island of the Plums. There we were captured by Toenail Pizza, who had a golden katana, just like Tanura from my parents' stories. It turned out he was the hooded man I saw before and that he had baited me to the island. He told me I'd be their tool. He revealed to me that I am a descendant of William the Sorcerer, William Rosen, and that is why they've been hunting me. And where I could open the chest, it was full of magic plums. The demon overlord's body was stuck underground under the island of the Plums. The artifacts were to be used to reunite his spirit with his body. And this happened. We managed to escape thanks to D4, but Harry and Uncle Pickle and Cucumber were unfortunately killed by Toenail Pizza. George revealed he sneakily managed to snatch 3 magic plums, and we went home to meet Trevor and tell my parents what we discovered. Meanwhile, also in the Caribbean, Mr. Coolio was having his own adventure, as the monkeys of King Otolo's island invited him to help with a gorilla problem. He of course accepted to help, and led the monkey army into battle. After the victory, he went back to his home near the sea on Jamaica. There he found a helmet with sharp bite marks that had washed ashore. It was the helmet of Haribo Company agent Richard. Suddenly, a purple portal appeared behind him. Michael Plumson appeared and said he had a message for him. Meanwhile, me and my friends and family went on an infiltration mission into a Haribo Company facility near London, and thanks to Trevor's plan, we got to Brian and resurrected him using a magic plum. But we also found out Haribo was resurrected, and so was the diarrhea Fugle, which ended up killing Mervyn. The rest of us only barely escaped and got away in Trevor's helicopter and went to a place as instructed by my parents. We all went to this green hill, and inside was the home of Carcass, where he and Michael Plumson were hosting a big gathering, the gathering of the World Guardians. Many different groups of World Guardians were present there, from the Arctic spies to the goblins, and the Skyfall hunters to even Marcia the Redeemed, who had earned her title in those decades of her servitude to the Plumson partisans, as an important figure who, as an ex-Haribo Company member, attained vital information for Plumson. Also present were the Flying Scotsmen, the Fairies, and several other groups. Mr. Coolio was also there with a group of monkey ambassadors and his lover, Joanna Ryan. He explained that he discovered, thanks to Plumson, that the former gorilla king he was hunting, Mr. Apeshit, was an agent of the Haribo Company, and I was going to finish his business with him once and for all. Then, me and my parents, along my brother and George, Trevor, and D4NG3R, joined the crowd to listen to Carcass's speech. After that, he told me about a place called Carmona they found out about after translating an ancient Egyptian text. We went on one of the Arctic spy submarines to go on our first mission together. A group of World Guardians, including me, set out to a swamp island near Egypt and went to a fortress to locate a special kind of key. But we suddenly had to escape the clutches of Nazor the Ice Demon. The Arctic spies saved us and we got back into the submarine, only to be followed by an enormous kraken, one of Nazor's own minions. We barely escaped and stranded on the coast of Egypt. There we deployed a tank to Trothon's the Sandy Dunes, but were followed by the Haribo Company. My trained aim allowed me to take out the jeeps, and we got to the Egyptian pyramid. Trevor stopped the traps that were inside, and we got to meet the ghost of an ancient pharaoh called Rekitsa. He sensed me and my brother's demon blood and did not allow us entry. Carcass tried to reason with him, but he sent mummies to destroy us. We fought them and eventually got in the room that held the red pyramid key. Suddenly, Toenail Pizza appeared and got into a fight with the Flying Scotsman. He killed Uncle Jam Roly-Poly, and in a moment of anger, Uncle Matsubri shot Toenail Pizza far back into the halls, and we escaped. The ancient pharaoh briefly saw Toenail Pizza, who soon disappeared again into the shadows, and the pharaoh thought to himself, how strange, a shadow sorcerer. Meanwhile, the Haribo Company was getting ready to bomb the pyramid. But the ancient pharaoh had a swift response ready, and as the sky turned green, he appeared as a giant ghost in the air and destroyed the bomber plane. We went back to the coast, and Carcass told us about Carmina and the demon sorcerers there, and that we were now ready to go there. Plums, who had come back from a mission with Tomo and Marcia, picked us up by helicarrier. We now had the key to the portal. Meanwhile, the armies of the demons were facing off against the military in America, and won with ease, as the Overlord appeared to eradicate them. Tano Pizza appeared before him to report about the World Guardians. We went on a mission to destroy the Haribo Company headquarters. Brian killed the dying Nora Forgel Mark II and got his revenge. Mr. Coolio finished his business with his gorilla nemesis. Commander Whitelocks killed Blue the Mutant, and the Plumson partisans faced off against a giant spider called Irania the Lesser. Then, Plumson teleported me and my family to a green hill to watch the base blow up as he pressed the rings gained from all the Haribo leaders together. For my parents, it was like old times. Suddenly, we were teleported by the enemy to Castle Haribo, where we found out my parents had demon forms. We all fought, and this battle resulted in the deaths of Haribo the Rotting and Haribo the Sonorous. As we burned the bodies, a group of people appeared. David Alexander and his gang. I found out they wanted revenge because they all lost people they loved in the cafe shooting of 1972 because of my parents. My parents apologized and explained, but David did not care. The demon overlord appeared, and my parents sacrificed themselves to allow for us to escape. The overlord reaped their souls, and Castle Haribo was destroyed. After continuing my training, we went to the Himalayan mountains to finally locate the portal. On the way there, Uncle Chocolate Cake was scolded by Uncle Banana. He thought this would be too scary for a coward like him. Uncle Matzo Bray told Banana off, but Uncle Choc was saddened already. We traversed the mountains and ultimately found the Himalayan sanctuary of old and made our way through. There I found the ropes and staff of William the Sorcerer, which I from then on began to use. My water magic was improved by the staff, and I helped take down a giant spider. Carcass helped me to feel more hopeful. We reached a kind of temple, but what we did not know was that the demons were also at the sanctuary for their own purpose. The spy, Oculi, spotted us, and the Overlord appeared. We had to run. Carcass used a magic plum to increase his power, and as we ran, the Skyfall hunters who were with us got killed. Carcass held off the demon Overlord at the bridge as we ran towards the portal, but as we narrowly escaped, Carcass made the ultimate sacrifice and died to save us. We used the pyramid key to get through the portal, and we finally reached it. Carmina, the ancient homeworld of the demons. Shockwaves of grief hit me, but soon the journey would have to continue on this perilous landscape.